Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in the series Freemasonry and Satanism, number 66, part 2. It's an amazing book here with some interesting information. The life of an American Jew in Israel. We went over part of it in part 1. I thought I would continue on with the story from Jack Bernstein as told by his friend Len Martin. So he was an American Jew, and it says he got caught up in the propaganda, started in 1946 after the United Nations, newly formed, allocated, appropriated, however you want to say it, part of the Palestinians' land, a small part. And whenever I do this, I'm not trying to do that 6-6 thing they're doing, I just do that with my hands. Everybody's suspicious of everybody. But a small portion of the land was given to the state of Israel, or the Rothschilds, to start the state of Israel, which since 1946, now only the Palestinians only have a small portion, and Israel has most of it. And it looks like they are continuing forward with a vengeance to remove or kill the rest of the Palestinians. Which, by the way, brings me to something else I've observed, because a lot of people don't put 2 and 2 together. But I'm noticing Germany, Greece, a lot of countries all over the world are having this immigration, or these migrants, or these people fleeing the conflicts in the Middle East, Syria, Afghan, Iraq, everywhere. And countries are being forced to take them against their will, and it's disrupting the local economies. And many of those people are even winding up here in the United States. And now they're buying up, I heard in the news, Christian churches and opening up more mosques. My point is, again, and I keep saying this, it's all planned. They're causing all that chaos and anarchy in the Middle East, in all those countries, not just Israel, to get the people to leave, the ones they don't kill. And eventually, I suspect, Israel will appropriate everything from the Euphrates all the way to Jordan and part of Syria. And if you go online on Zionism and images, you will see the maps that they planned for a nation almost the size of the United States. And I'm thinking, man, if the aggression and the horrible stuff that these Zionist Jewish people have caused from the little dot on the map, how horrible will it be when they have a whole continent? And I believe, apparently, they're from the area where the Khazars used to be, which is now the Ukraine. And some people are saying they want to reclaim their land in the Ukraine and Russia. And that's why they're causing all the chaos and anarchy there. And according to the protocols of Zion, they have eyes on the United States to take over and dominate by force and propaganda, and using the governments and the troops to suppress and punish or eliminate the citizens of the United States and probably Europe who don't go along with this New World Order. It's a horrible tale. And it's happening right in front of everybody's faces, and nobody wants to stand up or do anything. So let's continue on with this story from this guy who got roped in and moved to Israel and found out the truth, and then it's told in this book. Nazis. That's what it says here. Concerning Nazism, fascism, please let me clear up a point. Germans, this is a Jewish guy now, Germans are an admirable group of people. Germans. I dare even say great. But in Germany, the general population were victims of the Nazis, who through cunning and brutality gained power. And if you read the book Who Financed Hitler by the Poles, you will see that it was done by, again, the Rothschilds, banksters, and the people controlling the United States president and controlling the leader of the UK, United Kingdom, London. These people are all puppets and bought and paid for. Make no mistake about it. And they say it in the Protocols of Zion, and we will review that again in this video. So here this Jewish guy says the Germans are an admirable group of people, I dare say even great. In Germany, the average Jews were victims of the Zionist elite who worked hand in hand with the Nazis. And I've been saying this all along, as we have already reviewed. They were the Ashkenazi Jews from the Khazarian area called Khazars, which is now Ukraine, Eastern Europe, Russia, Poland, all around there, Germany, Eastern Germany. And they've abducted the religion of Judaism, which is interesting also because Rome abducted the religion of Jesus when it was failing to get a grip on power 300 or 400 years after Jesus. So much similarities in the people who have hijacked these religions. So the Zionists in Germany in World War II, the banksters, Rothschilds, and the people that were in charge, had a huge problem because the shepherd, I'm not saying the name right, the shepherd IC, shepherd, I'm trying to get my mouth to say it. Shepherd Jews, which apparently are original Jews, with the bloodline that is the same as the Arabs in the Middle East. They were all related. But they weren't related to those ones who took over the Jewish religion from the Eastern European continent. Russia, Germany, Poland, big pocket of people. And they were supposed to have been some very vicious people, those Khazars. And they had all the continent of Russia and Ukraine and south of there and north of there. That when people in Europe had a war, they would rent an army or pay for an army to come fight their war from them, from the Khazars. This is who we're dealing with. So these people are also the Rothschilds, banksters, Rockefellers, Illuminati, high-level Freemasons, and apparently they're into the occult, the Luciferic, satanic magic. And who knows, it may be some kind of alien, reptilian DNA from my research that appears to be the truth of it. They don't have the DNA that most people have, who have empathy and concern for your fellow man. They're more of a cold-blooded type of people, if they're people. Even in the Bible, there are situations where some of these people didn't want to be seen with their clothes off. Maybe they were hiding scales. It's a bizarre story, but if you do the research, that's what you're going to dig up. So what I was getting, my point is, it was the Who Financed Hitler by the Poles and many other books. The Rothschilds, banksters, and people from the United States, Wall Street, New York, D.C., who were training and financing these people to supply them with equipment and everything, just like they're doing in the Middle East now. They're supplying the ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and all those people with equipment and mercenaries, as we all know, to take down Assad, and they want to take down Iran. It's a war going on, and most people are just not really aware of it. But these Zionist Jewish people, banksters, in Germany in World War II, were actually the leaders. And they had a huge problem with this shepherd IC, how we say it. Jews, the original bloodline of even all the Arabs, didn't want the New World Order. And so it's my opinion that the Zionist Jewish people had the Orthodox or the real Jew people in Germany killed and put in camps and took all their gold and all their money. That's who I think did it. And it shows up in all the material I'm reviewing and studying. So the poor Jews, the good Jews, were killed by the bad Jews. And the bad Jews control the whole world right now. And of course there's some bad Christians in cahoots with them, and bad Muslims and mercenaries and people who don't believe in God or care. And a lot of people into Satanism and sacrificing people and Hollywood and Kabbalah. It's a very bizarre story. In Germany, the average Jews were victims of the Zionist elite. This is a Jew saying what I just said from my research of almost 11 years, who worked hand in hand with the Nazis. See? Many of these same Zionist Jews who in Germany had worked with the Nazis came to Israel, joined hands with the Zionist communists. So the communists are the same as the Nazis, who are the same as the Satanists, who are the same as the Zionist and Socialist, New World Order folks, New Age Lucifer worship, Hollywood crowd. And they control most of the politicians and leaders in industry. From Poland, Russia, just like I just said. This is a Jew speaking, not me. It is these two faces of communism and Nazi-style fascism that rule Israel. Democracy is merely an illusion. And again, think what democracy is. They think they're fooling people. Even the lowest person out on the street with no ID, no nothing, they want to make them feel empowered that they can go vote. But we all know whoever wins belongs to these New World Order folks. Right controlled by the Jesuits of the Vatican. The Zionists controlling Israel, and Prime Minister Sharon of Israel saying, don't worry about America, we control America. In 1917, the Bolshevik Jewish people, these people, the Nazi Jews, killed the Tsar and his family and took over that vast continent. So we can say it seems like these people who operate in stealth and secrecy have pretty much bought and paid for most of the political leaders and business leaders all over the world. And if you get in their way, you're liable to wind up dead in some kind of prison. And apparently they would torture you just for fun. They're very evil. They're very cold-blooded people. Vicious, in my opinion. So democracy is merely an illusion. Because when they do the masses, like I just said, with the propaganda on TV and the newspapers, most of the population is not thinking. They can easily be fooled and deceived. They're like, I guess they act like cattle. You feed them food and give them a place to live and a TV, and they're a boob, a lot of them. They call them zombies. Mind controlled. And as long as they get their pot of food and beer and TV and whatever, they're docile. They'll do anything. Sad state of affairs for humanity. So anyways, regarding the tie between the elite Ashkenazis, Jews, and the Nazis, take a good look at the word Ashkenazi. Look again, Ashkenazi. Isn't it interesting? Ashkenazi has Nazi on the last four letters of the word. Right where my finger is. So the author's pointing that out. Coincidence? There is a great confusion regarding the relationship of fascism to communism. Fascism is National Socialism. And if people, I know a lot of people who are on the lower middle class or poorer, say, Rick, you're crazy, we need socialism, we need our Social Security check, we need food stamps, we need all this. And I'm not any kind of person who would withhold anything from somebody who needs money and food. But what I'm saying, if it's driven to the point, to such a vast amount of people, like in the United States now, 50% or more, I believe it's intentionally been made that way, so that at some point they can shut it all off. I don't like somebody controlling everything who has a control switch. Like electricity, they're united the whole thing, connected it all together. So if the grid goes down, everybody goes down. Isn't that crazy and ludicrous? Shouldn't they be independent power supplies in communities? That if one went down, the rest of the world will still light it up if you're looking from a satellite from space? Instead of the whole country blacked out? They did it that way. That's why they want a one world currency. And they want to make using cash illegal. Because they want to control everything. And anybody who blips up on the computer as maybe an anti-government belligerent, they can push a button and turn off their credit card, turn off their... They won't have any cash. Cash will be illegal. You go to prison, jail, maybe beheaded. You got some 20s on you, you're a criminal. You're disrupting the economic stability of the planet. That's what they'll say. You're going to wonder where I got that from. Protocols of Zion and other books. Fascism is national socialism. So that would be a particular nation. Communism is international socialism. Israel's economy. If it were not for financial aid from America, Israel's economy would have collapsed long ago. And I don't even want to call it financial aid. I want to call it theft. They control our politicians, and they're forcing them to do their bidding and allocating all this money under their control. And if they don't cooperate, they probably won't get elected or re-elected. And if I was those people, I would opt for not being elected or re-elected and do the right thing for the people of the USA, because it's their descendants that are going to wind up being slaves. But isn't it amazing that these people don't care about their children or their children's children, but the viciousness which the Zionist Jewish people do care about their children and children's children? The evil people will really come after you if you mess with their kids. But apparently the Americans, they get the kids hooked up on drugs by this controlled government, and the American parents don't care. Apparently. Don't want to try to get them away from the TV with the mind control. If they just watch the cartoons for a few minutes and listen to the words. But then I'm reminded of normalcy bias. That their perception of reality would be altered, and they would have to deal with the truth. And that's just probably too much for them, because they probably have a cocktail party to go to, or a football party. Out there to go dancing tonight. Take a cruise. Can't have any interruption of my wonderful life in America. Well, 50% of the people are on welfare, and people all over the world are being dispersed from their country, driven out, or killed. Ukraine. I think a friend of mine told me that a lot of people from the Ukraine are going into Belarus, which is a country just north of there and borders Russia. So people are fleeing the Ukraine. People are fleeing the Middle East and causing a lot of havoc in the countries around there with the immigrants. Intentional? Of course it is. But the people don't want to wake up. Okay, so if it were not for the financial aid, I call it theft. Israel's economy would have collapsed long ago. Israel is a welfare state in every sense of the word, and it is America's most favored welfare recipient. And like I said, if you look up $90 billion aid given to Israel on the internet, you'll find out from 46 to 70 something, 73, 75, Israel got $1 billion. And then the whole rest of the world didn't get $1 billion at that same time period. What's with that? The communists have taken over the USA, the politics. And you can see it on the football halftime shows and the Grammys and TV. It's all satanic in nature with the Luciferic symbols. They do this. George Bush is doing this. Obama's doing this. All the politicians are doing this. The Pope is doing this, the devil sign. Then they go like this. You can see them when they're waving to the crowd. 666s. See? 1 6, 2 6, 3 6. They're showing us. They're laughing. Simpson cartoons and a lot of movies had depicted 911 in the buildings, and a lot of the people have seen that. And now they're doing something with 9/23, September next month. This is August 29th, Saturday. And less than a month away, they're saying the manure is going to hit the fan. I suspect it has everything to do with what I'm reading right now. So without the financial aid, the money they're getting by controlling our politicians sent to Israel to bring about this New World Order, New Age, let's call it what it is. While America's farmers, small businessmen, and laborers are struggling to survive, the U.S. government, dominated by Zionist Jews, is draining the pockets and purses of American taxpayers to support Israel's socialist economy and war machine. And I notice gas is down to about $2 right now in the United States. And you know, you scratch your head, you go, why? Because they've already drained the people. And what they're doing is there was some rebound in the economy in the USA from oil fields and stuff like that in refineries in the USA. So these lower prices are driving them out of business. How sinister. They want to drive everybody out of business, except for them. And once this New World Order takes over and everybody thinks this revolution is going to be a good thing, they don't have to cater to the needs of the poor people anymore. They'll kill the ones they don't want and enslave the rest. And everybody will have beguiled. A little Pied Piper will have taken them right down to the trail. Beguiled. If you ever watch Pinocchio, oh, come to the island, the fantasy island, the carnival, the cotton candy. So Pinocchio gets on the island, and next thing you know, he's shuttled out the back of the island into a slave ship. Beguilement. Tactic of war. They cause revolutions and they deceive everybody. They promise the poor people more wealth, and the rich people will be punished because they're poor. But a worser day is coming if they believe that, which is verifiable by every religion that ever took place. Look at the Iraqis right now, the Afghanis right now, the Ukrainians right now, the Egyptians right now. It all winds up in a dictatorship. Much worse. I think over there in Egypt, they're beheading people that don't cooperate. It is draining the pockets and purses of American taxpayers to support Israel's socialist economy and war machine. Since the Israeli government knows, and the favored Zionists know, that the Zionist pressure in America will ensure that America will keep sending them massive amounts of money, the Israeli government and its favored citizens spend money like drunken sailors. This practice leads to inflation and eventually to economic collapse, and they are spending the USA money like they have an open faucet, and they're saying we, the citizens, are responsible for that money, for them to take over our country. Our own money is being used against us and to take over the world, and we're paying for it with troops and equipment and money. There's a little note on the bottom of this page. The suffix Nazi, you're not going to believe this, is an ancient Yiddish Germanic term meaning dominant social group. So Aka-Nazis and then Hitler's Nazis. It was first used derogatory by German anti-Semites against the German National Socialist Party. Just remember, they're trying to take over the world, and it looks like they have the control to do it. Not gonna be good. Only with a massive increase in American financial aid can the economic collapse be averted. And even then, this solution would only be temporary in Israel. Even in countries where conditions are ideal, there lingers a danger. Since the government of the country provides for the needs of its citizens, most of these citizens have a tendency to lose incentive to work hard, and a country with a complacent citizenry is easily conquered. And that's what we have right now, a complacent citizenry. Everybody's just watching and praying that, if they're praying, that what they think is going to happen, they just want to believe it's not going to happen. They're in denial. Not going to be good for us. Visitors to Israel. Tourism is one of Israel's main sources of income. The largest group of visitors are American Jews. But there are also many American Christians who want to visit the holy shrines to see the land of God's chosen people. These Christians come away very impressed and filled with religious fever. While in Israel, Jews and Gentiles alike are carefully watched, so that they do not stray and happen to see the sordid side of Israel and the true Israel. Like in Soviet Russia and other communist countries, visitors to Israel are taken on carefully planned guided tours. They are shown the religious sites and universities and lush orchards, the technical accomplishments, and the arts. And to stir sympathy, they are taken to visit the Holocaust Museum. But kept from the eyes of the tourists, are the ghettos, the prisons where political prisoners are, mostly Arabs and Sephardic Jews. So the Jews that are the real Jews, where my finger is there, if you want to see if you can pronounce that better, are subject to the most inhuman forms of torture. The tourists do not see the widespread crime activities and the corruption and cooperation between the organized crime bosses and the government and police officers. The tourists do not learn of the true inner workings of Israel's Marxist, fascist government, nor do they see Israel's racism. Just try giving a Bible to a local Jew in Israel, and you will see how much religion and religious freedom there is in Israel. If you are seen by the police, you will be arrested. I'm aware, I've read, that in Israel, if you're Jewish, and you believe that Jesus was the Son of God and died on the cross for our sins, if you're a Christian, Jewish person, you might find a bomb in your mailbox. Serious business. So what do you think they're going to do when they take over the USA and bring about this new world order, new age? And those guillotines that truck drivers, I thought I had a bug on my leg, guillotines that truck drivers have reported delivering to army bases. Will there be a guillotine on every corner, and people who don't have their mark of the beast or their swear allegiance to Lucifer, will they be beheaded? Big large bucket right there for the bodies. I know I'm saying some insane things, but if you do your homework, you might find out that this might be real. If the Zionist leadership in Germany had not cooperated with the Nazis, the Holocaust might not have happened. If the Zionists worldwide had not persuaded various countries to refuse to accept Jews from Germany, a lot of people don't know that. All these good Jews were refused acceptance into their countries, because this was a worldwide affair to get rid of these Sephardic Jews, the real Jews. So they wouldn't allow them in Europe, and they wouldn't allow them in the U.S. or anywhere. They wanted them dead. The Zionists in America persuaded President Roosevelt to shut the door, to not allow Jewish refugees into America before the war. These were real Jewish people who did not believe in Zionism, and they would be telling everybody, so they had to be killed, in my opinion. Before the war, when there was still a chance for Jews to leave Germany. So that was a big plan, because all of our leaders were being controlled by the Zionist Jews, so obviously they told the leaders not to accept them, and they tried to funnel them to Palestine to start growing their new nation. It must be added that many people, including Jews, question whether the Holocaust happened as portrayed by the Zionist propagandists, at least perhaps not to the extent the Zionists claim. So I'm saying, from my research, the Zionist Jews killed the Sephardic Jews. Killed the Jews that did not support the New World Order, New Age, as in those photos I showed you in the last video, part 1, number 66. Religion. The land on which the present state of Israel has been built, formerly Palestine, was once walked on by Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. Remember, a huge portion of the world are Muslims, and a huge portion of the world are Christians. And a small portion are these Jewish people. And these Jewish people are taking over the whole world and want to kill off the Muslims and want to kill off the Christians. And the rest of the people, they want to embrace the Luciferic religion, also called the New Age, transgendered and the gay agenda and all that. And I personally don't have anything against gay people. Never woke up in the morning and said I hate gay people. Never woke up in the morning and said I hate black people. Never woke up in the morning and said I hate Jewish people. But what they're doing is creating this animosity against Christianity and decency and morality. And they're saying if you're a moral person, you're an insult to all of them, and you need to shut up and go away. How crazy is that? Since Palestine was the site of many religious events and has many religious sites, it is rightfully referred to as the Holy Land. They got a little star on the bottom here. It has been reported that there were 6 million Jews killed during this time. Statistically, most scholars today agree that there were over 13 total undesirables, weren't just Jewish, persecuted and exterminated by the Nazis. That would have been controlled by the Zionist Jews now, during the Holocaust, beginning with gun owners, so that wasn't Jewish people. Political dissidents didn't have to be Jewish people. Most Christians, they weren't Jewish people. The infirmed, they were just old, sick. And ultimately the Jews, after Samuel Unnemeyer's call to action. So the 13 million weren't just Jews. Now remember, when the Bolshevik Jewish people took over Russia, apparently, under serious research, 66 million Goyim, non-Jews, were killed in Russia. And the Christian churches were destroyed, and a lot of them were Christians. No Jewish temples were destroyed. So we don't talk about the Bolshevik Russian Revolution in 1917, where 100 million, they say, 60 million, 25 million admitted in the Jewish newspapers, Goyim, Christians, good people, were killed in Russia. So let's just give the lowest number, 25 million. We never hear about that. We never hear about reparations. But the 6 million Jews in Germany killed by the bad Jews, all we hear is about reparations and hunting down somebody who was an accountant or a guard or something 60 years ago who's still alive, taking him to trial. It's a relentless pursuit and propaganda machine to destroy anybody who's not them. They do want to rule the world. And again, I wonder if they're of a different kind of DNA. And if you undress these people, would they have some kind of signs under their skin? Maybe a little tail or reptilian scales on their chest? Snake-like things? Seems plausible to me. Maybe that's what the UFO and alien thing's all about. These entities have been here all along. It's in the Bible. If you look at the pictures, the front upper torso of the devil is a human body, and the bottom part of the torso is a snake around the pole. So one would think that Palestine, now Israel, would tend to have an air of holiness about it. Moving on, when Palestine Muslims and Palestinian Jews occupied Palestine together, there was a religious aura. But since the Zionists took over the area and set up the state of Israel, it is one of the most sinful nations in the world where only about 5% of the Jews are religious. It is interesting to note that those who are strongly religious are the Arab Muslims and the Arab Christians, who make up only a small minority in Israel. Israeli laws suppress all religion. For instance, it is against the law to try to convert a Jew to another religion, or even if the Jew is an atheist or humanist. A Christian is permitted to preach the gospel inside a church building, but for the clergy or anyone to even tell anyone about teachings in the Bible while outside the church building, it will bring a 5-year prison sentence. People better wake up. Bad day is coming if we don't wake up. The same law of religious suppression is applied to those of the Islamic faith who, in the act of kindness, give a gift of any kind to a Jew. A 5-year prison sentence can result. So if a Muslim gives a gift to a Jew, a 5-year prison sentence can result, according to Jack Bernstein. Worldwide, Jews and non-Jews view Israel as a land where Jews may practice their religion without persecution. Therefore, the Zionists do not dare risk suppressing Judaism for fear of arousing world opinion against them. So the ruling Zionists merely tolerate the religious practices of the small minority of religious Jews in Israel. The American people have been led to believe that all Jews are God's chosen people. This myth was started by a small group of Jews. But isn't it odd that it is not the religious Jews who claim to be God's chosen people. It is the atheistic, non-believing Jews who claim this honor. So the Zionist murderers trying to take over the world are trying to convince everybody they're God's chosen people, and they're not even blood related to real Jews. They're from the Russia, Eastern European area, Poland, Germany, Bohemia, and they were called Khazars, and they used to control the whole continent, and they were ruthless people. And they took the Jewish religion as their religion for the whole country, and they've been using it against the world. I guess they stole Judaism. And they're the ones in Germany who killed the good Jews because they were obstructing their plans for a Zionist state in Israel, as we saw with the images that I showed you, that if you go look up Zionism and images on the internet. Leading the cry, "We are God's chosen people," are the Zionist Marxist Ashkenazi Jews who, for political purposes, chose Judaism and who don't have a drop of biblical Jewish blood in them. One Israeli religious Jew said it well. "At one time, we Jews were chosen by God to be his messengers, but long ago we forfeited that right." And that would have been, that's on the bottom, a little asterisk here, Yosero David Weiss, Haredai rabbi, spokesman of Nutria Karta, Anti-Zionism of Israel, Jews Unite Against Zionism, at www.nkusa.org. People need to wake up. This is a Jewish man in this book who's telling all this, not me. But I've read many books and I believe this story. Anyone who has read the Bible with an open mind knows that God gave the Jews of that time special favors. But if you read the Bible, the favors were revoked after they did some nasty things. My simple paraphrase, and go read the Bible and you can look up all the stuff they did. The state of Israel was divided into 2 kingdoms, 10 tribes to the north, 2 to the south. A bunch of horrible stuff was done, and their status of God's chosen people was revoked. And then, of course, 1,900 years later, Jesus was born, and in the New Testament, Jesus' words, was to replace the Old Testament. The conditions were that God demanded that the Jews obey his word, and they didn't obey his word. They rejected God and turned to adoring Mammon, M-A-M-O-N, It doesn't take a biblical scholar to realize that long ago, even the real Jews lost the right of being God's chosen people. And it's pretty clear in the Bible. You can go on YouTube and watch some videos by some smarter people than me. And they'll read you the passages. Judaism, few Jews, Sephardic, or Ashkenazis are religious. Like I said, like Henry Macau, PhD, Jewish author who wrote the book Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World, that would be these Anunnaki Jews. Says that, he has lots of Jewish friends, and most of them are oblivious to all of this, and they certainly don't support the New World Order and New Age, and ruining their state of affairs and their jobs and enslaving them. Because obviously the Ashkenazi Jews are treating the Sephardic Jews in Israel now as lower class citizens. This is true in America, in Israel, and worldwide. So most of these Sephardic Jews are religious. And a lot of the Ashkenazis who came to America probably assimilated and were not fooled into this Zionist program. Christianity, the Christian religion, has felt the influence of the Jewish meddling and infiltration. And I said this before, they have infiltrated the church. It's in their documents. They were going to do it 100 years ago. And now they got a lot of people by the public media, the priest fooling around with kids. And pedophilia is a satanic ritual. So they put these men in the Catholic Church who were practicing satanic rituals. They made it public, and everybody hates Christianity now, a lot of people. And it was an intentional plan to destroy Christianity. With most of us, it's our only defense against what's coming. And they're intentionally destroying the Muslim religion, Islam. And they're intentionally destroying anybody who doesn't believe in what they want you to believe. Especially in America, infiltration, resulting in confusion and bickering between the various Christian denominations. This has led to a lukewarm attitude. This is a Jewish man speaking in defense of Christian here, saying that they planned on ruining it. There is evidence to prove that Zionist Jews, or one of their many fronts, have started many of the Christian denominations and thus dominated doctrine. So these Ashkenazis, or these Zionist people, created Christian churches, many of the different newer branches. Reformed Christianity, maybe United Church, Church of Science, all this stuff. And I even saw one where there's a video during one of those gigantic TV show evangelist, Christian taught speech, Christian minister, and his wife was up on stage saying, when you pray, it's really not to God. You're praying so that you're happier. And that's what God wants you to be, is happy. She goes, it's not for God. That's not why you're coming to church and you're praying. It's so that you are happier. It's not for God's benefit. God wants you to be happy, and He wants you to make yourself happy. The blasphemy coming out of this lady's mouth, listening to that, it was just obvious, horrible. And thousands of people were sitting in that arena, cheering around. Yeah, we're praying so we'll get rich and happy. You got to pay attention, I keep saying. There is evidence to prove that Zionist Jews, and one of their many fronts, have started many of the Christian denominations, thus dominated doctrine. Muslims who follow the teaching of Muhammad are by far the most fervent of the three major religions in following their religious beliefs. So that's why they've been destroying them in the Middle East. They don't care what religion you are, these New World Order folks. They want to destroy all religion. And then they're going to have one religion, and it's going to be the Luciferic religion. And if you say one peep or word about gay people, maybe off with your head. The Judeo-Christian ethic we hear so much about in America is a big joke, the result of an intense Zionist propaganda campaign. God said, beware of those who call themselves Jews. This is in Revelation. You can go look it up. Revelation is the last book in the Bible. It's not very thick. I think it's Revelation 9. And you just read along there and you'll see, call themselves Jews but are not, for they lie. For they are of the synagogue of Satan. Everything I've been saying is right there in the Bible for you to go look up. People, I got a comment on one of my comments I made on some press release. And the guy who rebutted said, well, I don't believe in God and I don't believe in the devil. Well, I got to tell you now, you better do some research. Because there's a lot of cases of possession and they have to get exorcisms to get the demonic being out of people. And this goes way back for thousands of years, verifiable information. We are spiritual beings in these biological bodies. That's proven. Children in hospitals. Near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences. The child actually dies, or an adult, and then they bring them back 2 or 3 minutes later. And they talk about things that they saw. Grandparents that were dead before they were alive that they described and were told it's not your time yet. How many people have had out-of-body experiences? I've had an out-of-body experience. I woke up seeing myself laying there and tried to travel somewhere and freaked out and said, man, am I dead? And I wanted to go back to my body. And I've said this in my previous videos, described the whole event. There's many books published by this. Books published by nurses and doctors where they see this little energy field leave the body when somebody dies. Psychic research. The government with remote viewers leaving their bodies, spying on the enemy, possessing somebody else's body and making them do something horrible. This is how much control these people get who work for the government, who actually leave their body and can enter the body of, let's say, a general of the enemy and see what's going on or make him shoot somebody. Look it up. Look up Project Montauk, MK Ultra. The mind control and the satanic rituals out there is off the chart. So you got these people who, I guess, don't do any homework and want to get out there and go, there's no God and no devil. They don't know what they're talking about. There's definitely something. Israel stirs perpetual war. In the Holy Land, it would seem that there should be peace. Instead, war and preparation for war is ever present. And it's going on like crazy right now. Countries are building new aircraft carriers, new Air Force planes, new laser technology on battleships and planes, drones. We all know this in the USA. Governments and police departments are buying hollow point bullets, even Social Security or the post office. All of these, Social Security, FEMA. Why? Do they plan on using hollow point bullets on we the people? Well, if you read this stuff, yes. In the Holy Land, it would seem that there should be peace. The Israeli military machine is recognized as the 4th most powerful in the world. So the dot on the map is now the 4th most powerful in the world. From the standpoint of the amount of planes, tanks, and other fighting equipment, plus the fact that they are of the latest design, it does make the military machine of Israel very powerful, but in the army, serious weaknesses have developed. Before exploring the weaknesses of Israel's army, let's briefly review each of the wars in which Israel has been involved. The average of one every 8 years since it became a state in 1948. So they had the 1948 war. Just after Israel was declared itself a state, Palestinians and other Arabs attacked the Israeli army, which had been formed out of the terrorist groups, the Ingru and the Stern gang. So the Palestinian and Arabs attacked the Israeli army, which had been formed out of the terrorist groups. The reason for the attack by the Palestinians was to try to regain their homes, which through murder and terrorism, the Zionists had confiscated. The Palestinians had been a peaceful people until then, and they were not trained in the art of warfare, but the Ashkenazi Zionist Jews who had migrated from Soviet Russia, Poland, and Germany had much more knowledge on tactical warfare. In addition, Zionists had built up a large amount of arms, which they had purchased from the United States and communist countries and had illegally smuggled them into the area. The Arabs were defeated, and in the process, Israel conquered more Palestinian territory. 1956 war. Egypt owned the land through which the Suez Canal flowed. Egypt's president, Nasser, declared his intention of taking over operations of the canal from England. This would hurt England's colonial empire. So England, along with France and Israel, conspired to attack Egypt. With Egypt nearly subdued, America's President Eisenhower stepped in and ordered England, France, and Israel to withdraw. This was the only time during the U.S.-Israeli relations that the U.S. President put the interest of America ahead of the Israel interest. The 1967 war. Tensions were mounting between Egypt and Israel over territory located between the two countries, the Sinai and Gaza strips. To help Israel get an unfair advantage, the Soviet Union resorted to trickery. This is 67. So I keep saying that after the 1917 war where the Bolshevik Jews took over Russia, I still think they have control and influence over Russia. Soviet diplomats in Egypt told President Nasser to threaten war but to not attack. Then Soviet diplomats told Israelis' leaders to threaten war and go ahead and attack. So trickery is always being used. This act of treachery enabled Israel to attack while Egypt was off guard and to destroy Egypt's military capacity in just 6 days. It had been the goal of Israel's leaders to take over all of the land between the Nile and the Euphrates River. Like I said, go look up Zionism and Images on Yahoo or Google, and you'll see an image website. And they do have designs for a huge country. And all those native Arabs are being forced to flee for their lives, and they're going to Germany and other countries, causing all kinds of problems, like Belarus when they're leaving the Ukraine. These Zionist Jewish folks are causing this New World Order, are causing all this chaos all over the world, including the USA. Alright, to take over Egypt during the war, they desired the West Bank, which was part of Jordan, and the Golan Heights, which was part of Syria. So during the 1967 war, Israel resorted to trickery. Israel had the technical equipment to intercept radio messages and change these messages. Gotta slow down on my reading, messing up my words. Boil them. So when they receive a message, a communique from one country to their troops, Israel would intercept them and change them. It's called boil them. And send them on to their destination. So they're probably all this propaganda in the newspapers in the USA and Europe owned by these Zionist Jewish folks, banksters. We all know that. So all the stuff they tell us on the nightly news is lies. During the war, Israel intercepted messages from Egypt to Jordan and Syria, tricking Jordan and Syria into entering the war. The Arab countries were defeated, and Israel took a big step towards its goal of conquest by occupying the Golan Heights and the West Bank, as well as the Sinai and Gaza strips. It can hardly be called a war. Trickery on the part of the Soviet Union and Israel, as I have explained, rendered the so-called 1967 war nothing more than a treacherous act of terrorism for which the Soviets and Israel are both famous. Israel attack on the USS Liberty. During the 67 war, one of the most daring acts of treachery was committed. And I mentioned this many times in my videos. It was the attack on the American ship USS Liberty by America's so-called friend Israel. During Israel's treacherous attack on Egypt, the USS Liberty, an American surveillance ship, was cruising off the coast of Israel and monitoring the progress of the attack. Realizing that the Liberty was learning and recording Israel's acts of treachery, Israeli leaders decided to get rid of the evidence. Israeli planes and torpedo boats attacked the Liberty with the obvious intent of sinking it. If the ship was sunk, thus destroying the evidence, then Israel could blame Egypt for the attack. Then the Zionist-controlled news media in America would have given the lie as a fact, with the intent of turning the American people against Egypt. And there's a little note here on the bottom. And it says, the survivors of the U.S. of Liberty have a website where their ongoing legal battles with the U.S. government can be viewed and the truth told. ussliberty.org/report.htm. Now there's some truth, and this stuff's still going on, the treachery and the trickery and the deception. Fortunately, bravery on the part of the Liberty crew kept the ship afloat. But during the attack, Israel killed 34 American crew members of the Liberty and wounded 171. Israel claimed that the attack on Liberty was a case of mistaken identity. But reports by the surviving crew and other evidence proved the attack by Israel was intentional. Facts about the attack on the Liberty were conveniently omitted by the Zionist-controlled American news media. Who would have thunk of that? An investigation by the U.S. government was subdued and the matter quickly forgotten. This is another good example of the tremendous influence the Zionists have over the U.S. government. Things I keep saying. Written by a Jew. The cover-up of the whole scandalous affair by the U.S. government could not have succeeded if the news media had done its duty. It is a good example of the power of the Zionist-controlled news media in America to distort and withhold important news from the American people. The 1973 war, the treachery on the part of the Israelis and the Soviets that led to the 67 war, greatly embittered the Arab people. You think? Immediately they began arming with the intent of retaliating for the Israel treachery and to try to take back land that Israel had taken from them. Even though several Arab countries were preparing militarily, they were trying to peacefully work out a solution with Israel. But Israel was assured that their Zionist brethren in America would use their power over the U.S. government to make sure that the U.S. would support Israel. But Israel was assured that their Zionist brethren in America, the people who control our politicians, would use their power over the U.S. government to make sure that the U.S. would support Israel. Now remember, these people own our Federal Reserve, so they can just threaten our politicians with crashing the dollar and destroying the country. So our politicians will do what they're told. This whole scandal and treachery needs to stop, don't you think? Realizing the hopelessness of further negotiation with Israel's leaders, Egypt, along with Jordan, Syria, and Iraq, attacked Israel, and they were winning. With Israel facing defeat, the powerful Zionists in America pulled the strings of the power over the U.S. government, and the U.S. government officials obeyed their Zionist masters, according to this Jewish guy. Massive amounts of U.S. military equipment and arms were airlifted at taxpayers' expense to Israel in order to bolster the retreating Israeli forces. So America came to the aid of the Israeli invaders in the Middle East, which are in the Americas controlled because they own our Federal Reserve, our money, and they bribe a lot of people. Their people get caught in all this stuff. Got like a mafia type group of people running the USA right now, and they want to keep that from the USA people. And people who try to tell the truth from the general media, journalists who try to tell the truth, probably wind up dead. The U.S. assistance enabled Israel to turn the tide and emerge victorious. Yes, Israel was saved by so much U.S. military equipment was airlifted, but so much U.S. military equipment was airlifted to Israel at that time that the U.S. armed forces were left in short supply and in a weakened position. So our U.S. government moved all the equipment over there and put us in a defenseless state of affairs. U.S. government officials were so much under the influence of the Zionists that they had alerted the 82nd Airborne Division stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and U.S. troops were also stationed in Germany for the purpose of being sent to aid Israel if necessary. It is pretty sad that to please the Zionist power in America, U.S. government officials are willing to sacrifice the lives of American boys and girls to save Zionist Marxist Israel, which is behind the New World Order, New Age propaganda, trying to destroy the USA in 2015. Because if necessary, to save Israel in one of their acts of aggression, the U.S. government will bow to the American Zionists and send American citizens into combat. They will have no choice but to fight on the side of the Zionist Marxist Israel. Right now, with Jade Helm and many other things, preparedness, FEMA camps, government buying hollow point bullets, it looks like they're going to turn our own military on us. And a lot of our military people have been let go, leaders who I guess didn't pass a question. Will you fire on American people if ordered to do so? And I've gone over this in some of my previous videos. There's a long list of military leaders that Obama has been letting go. If American boys and girls die in a future Mideast war, you will know that those responsible will be Zionist Jews in America. And the weak-spined politicians in Washington, D.C. will bow to their Zionist lords. I didn't say that. I'm just reading a book here. Is it a crime to read a book and to try to find out what the truth is? Yep, they would accuse people of trying to stir up hatred against the very people who are bent on probably killing 85% of the population on the planet, according to the USA Georgia Guidestones. And the United Nations main mission is population reduction, and the sky spraying program in the sky, and the HARP transmitters, and Monsanto creating all these foods that are causing tumors and cancers in rats, and we're being fed that food. The New York, Moscow, Tel Aviv triangle. At this point, you may be confused. Israel and the Soviets are ideological allies, but follow the ideas of Karl Marx, so both are communist socialists. Yet the Soviets supplied military equipment to the Arabs, Israelis' enemies, but at the same time the Soviet Union's enemy, the United States, was arming Israel. They're all controlled by these Zionists. They want the two forces to battle and kill each other. The Arab troops fighting the American troops, while these Zionists sit back and will laugh and see both of their enemies being murdered. To understand the treachery in which the Zionist Bolshevik Jews are capable, and to understand the treachery which took place before and during the 1973 war, I must explain the New York, Moscow, Tel Aviv triangle. A heavy migration of Jews from Russia to America has started in 1931, and Henry Ford wrote a lot of the Dearborn Independent newspaper. Henry Ford bought it just to get the word out about these Yiddish Jews coming into New York and acting obnoxious, taking over businesses and theaters and liquor manufacturers, like mafia. I mean, if you didn't sell your liquor manufacturing whiskey production facility in Kentucky to them, maybe, you were killed. Then they would take that label and move the production place to Chicago or Louisville and start diluting the Kentucky whiskey so that it became poisonous, killed people. And that was part of the reason for Prohibition, is the liquor was so polluted and so toxic. It was driving people insane, and it was crazy stuff. But the Yiddish, Zionist, Jewish people who were doing this only cared about making money. They didn't care if they poisoned people. And it's still the case with Monsanto. Putting the farmers out of business, controlling our utilities, the water supplies, everything. All those big chain stores that our government is supposed to be protecting the citizens from, organized crime or organized corporations from putting everybody out of business. So many of these communist Bolshevik Jews settled in New York City that New York had been referred to as Moscow on the Hudson. How many people know that? It has been pointed out, and with good reason, that decisions regarding communist policies came not from Moscow, but from New York City. This is 1930. Remember, World War II started in 1940, 39. and the Zionist Bolshevik Jews in Moscow, and extending that to include Zionist Bolshevik Jews who dominated Israel's government. So you got the Zionists in Moscow, you got the Zionists in New York and D.C., you got the Zionists in Israel. And we poor citizens are unaware of what's going on, that there's a war against us to destroy us, according to my research. The Zionist power over the U.S. government in Washington, D.C. stems from the Zionist Bolsheviks centered in New York City. It is from New York that orders go out to the vast Zionist network all over the U.S. It is this network of influences the economic and political affairs of not only of our federal government, but nearly all, if not all, state governments. This power of the Zionist Bolshevik Jews over the U.S. makes the New York leg of the New York, Moscow, Tel Aviv triangle a tremendous influence over communist policies. So in viewing the 1973 war, most people, and it seems most Arabs also, are of the impression that since the Soviet Russia sold equipment to Egypt and other Arab countries, the Soviets were in support of the Arabs in 1973 war. This is a false impression. So right now, a lot of the Arabs are under the impression that Russia will stop Israel from attacking Iran and Syria. But they're doing it right now with these ISIS and Al-Qaeda groups. They're going forward and putting masks on their head, and they're probably mercenaries. Could be white people, could be Jewish people. And they're beheading people for videos and fed that to the media to try to stir up hate here in America and Europe. It's a big, huge deception, treachery, trickery. Representing Israel, Ambassador Gola Mar, a Bolshevik Jewess, met with two representatives of the Soviet Union. Kaganovich, a Bolshevik Jew, Stalin, who had married a Bolshevik Jewish. They made secret agreements. Israel's part of the agreement with the Russians. Israel would not allow any Western country, especially the U.S., to build military bases on Israel territory. Israel would allow an official communist party to function freely in Israel. So the official communist party can function in Israel, but not the U.S. Israel would not make any agreement to solve the Palestinian problem. So they had never had any intent of ever solving the problem. We all know that. Israel would influence world Jewry, especially in the U.S., to have Western powers adopt policy of favoring Israel over the Arabs. So they bribe our politicians and our corporations and banks. Israel was to continue its Marxist economic policy to prevent any free enterprise tendencies. Alright, I'm almost finished with this. The Soviet Union's part of the pact was the Soviet Union would institute pro-Arab policy solely as a camouflage for its true intentions, which was to furnish aid to the Arabs, but never enough to enable the Arabs to destroy Israel. The Soviets would open the gates of Soviet satellite countries to Jewish immigration to Israel. So they would supply all these Jewish citizens who would be the warriors who wanted to bring about the New World Order Zionism. Should this be insufficient, Soviet Russia would open its own gates of immigration. The Soviets would absolutely guarantee the security of Israel. And the United States absolutely assures the security of Israel. Both the Soviet Union and Israel would exchange intelligence reports. So I'm going to finish there. Go buy this book. Give credit where credit is due. I didn't read everything. I'm not going to read everything. I just thought it was important enough to have to read all that. Thank you for watching my video. And up next is the Protocols of Zion. I did number 10, and on this video I'm going to do number 11, and maybe number 12. We'll see how it flows when I'm reading it. Alright, a continuation of the Protocols of Zion, which I printed off the internet, free. Another document I recommend, if you really don't believe all this stuff, is Report from Iron Mountain, which you can also go online and print off for free. Granted, you use up an ink cartridge, but it says all the same thing. Basically, the report from Iron Mountain was, Iron Mountain is a military base in New York City, New York State, upstate. And they got together a bunch of elites. I think it was 67, 68, 69 in the USA to come up with a proposal what to do in case peace broke out. Can you believe that? In case peace broke out. The problem was, without a war, they can't institute martial law. They can't get the people riled up and go do the bidding of the New World Order folks. The politicians in charge may not be able to keep in control and keep their jobs, keep their power. So they had to find alternate things that would make the people depend on the government if there wasn't a war or a threat from another country. Because we had nuclear weapons, they thought war would be obsolete. So a report from Iron Mountain says details they could use environmental issues, global weather, warming, global cooling, terrorism, economic. All the things that are happening are in the report of Iron Mountain were tools they could use to deceive the American people and make them depend on the government. Which is what, of course, the Protocols of Zion is all about. And it dictates all of those things also. So there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that everything that I'm reading and studying from my couple hundred books and my hundreds of hours of videos I put on YouTube, which may be being censored, that not everybody is getting, because I know when I go on YouTube, it makes suggestions, and I notice they're now giving me suggestions that are a little bit bizarre, flat earth theories, and they're not, when I watch the Jade Helm videos, they don't give me suggestions on videos that are new related to what I'm interested in. They're trying to divert my attention away. So whoever these people are that are running things think that we are stupid and we won't pursue the truth. And some people, one of my friends asked me the other day, Rick, why do you put yourself out there? And I'm aware a lot of people, biologists, doctors, witnesses, journalists, a lot of people have been killed trying to get the truth out. But if you don't step up and speak up and wake up, we're all doomed anyways. So what? See, let's see, you say nothing, you're doomed. You say something, you're doomed. So you're doomed either way. The only chance of not being doomed is to say something and get enough people to wake up. But then again, I'm not really worried about being doomed because I believe, I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus, and I put my faith in God, and Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And in the Bible, I think it says, whoever seeks refuge in me, I will be thy shield, something like that. So I just picture myself in God's hand. If they want to come after me or other people who are trying to be honest, decent people, they'll have to deal with God. Just saying, this is some powerful stuff we're discussing, and this Protocol of Zion is no piece of cake issue to discuss. It leaves you unnerved. So let's see what it says. I did number 10 on the last video. I'm going to do number 11. And many rabbis have said that this is, in fact, a true document. There are many old books. You can go on A-Books or other used book sites and see the books that are for sale, published 100 years ago, 80 years ago, 60 years ago. They keep coming out. I think Henry Ford published a copy of this stuff. And the Dearborn Independent newspaper you go online and get. And the Freemasons published those pamphlets called the New Age. And the Masonic books I went over, the Blue Lodge Handbook, Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, many books on Freemasons, occult, remote viewing, Zionism, New World Order, New Age, Henry Macau, Text Mars, So many others. David Icke, Alex Jones videos, Infowars.com, Steve Quayle. So let's go. The State Council has been, as it were, the emphatic expression of the authority of the ruler. So they plan on having this ruler, this descendant of King David, when they rebuild King Solomon's temple in Israel. They're going to have a ruler, and the State Council will be the expression of that authority. It will be, as the show, part of the legislative corps. What may be called the editorial committee of the laws and decrees of the ruler. So anyways, protocol number 11. So the State Council will be the show part of the editorial committee of the laws and decrees of the ruler. Who's the ruler? We shall make law, right, and justice in the guise of proposal to the legislative corps by decrees of the president under the guise of general regulations. Of the orders of the Senate, of resolutions of the State Council in the guise of ministerial orders, and in case of a suitable occasion should arise, in the form of a revolution in the state. Having established approximately the modus agendae, we will occupy ourselves with details of these combinations by which we shall still have to complete the revolution in the course of the machinery of the state. It gets a little bit more clearer here as we go along. By these combinations, I mean the freedom of the press, the right of association, freedom of conscience, the voting principles, and many another that must disappear forever from the memory of man. Let me read that again. By these combinations, I mean the freedom of the press, the right of association, you can hang out with whoever you want to, freedom of conscience, you can think whatever you want to, the voting principle, and many another that must disappear forever from the memory of man. So they want those rights to disappear or undergo a radical alteration the day after their promulgation of the new Constitution. So when these people create the New World Order, there's going to be a new Constitution, and it will not have freedom of the press. It will not have the free right of association. It will not have a freedom of conscience. It will not have a voting principle. And many another must disappear forever from the memory of man. Every noticeable alteration will be dangerous. So they don't want you to notice this. They got to sneak it in on you. If this alteration be brought in with a harsh severity, and in a sense of severity and limitations, it may lead to a feeling of despair caused by fear of new alterations. It may be brought in a sense of further indulgences. It will be said that we have recognized our own wrongdoing. And this will destroy the prestige of the infallibility of our authority. And else it will be said that we have become alarmed and are compelled to show a yielding disposition. So they don't want to be shown to have any kind of yielding dispositions. It's going to be an iron fist. A big boot to the head. For which we shall get no thanks, because it will be supposed to be compulsory. Both the one and the other are injurious, injurious to the prestige of the new Constitution. What we want is that from the first moment of its promulgation, while the peoples of the world are still stunned by the accomplished fact of the revolution, still in a condition of terror and uncertainty, they should recognize once and for all that we are so strong, so inexpugnable, so super abundantly filled with power, that in no case shall we take any account of them, and so far from paying any attention to their opinions or wishes, we are ready and able to crush with irresistible power all expressions or manifestations thereof at every moment and in every place that we have seized at once everything. Are you hearing me? Protocol 11. We wanted and shall in no case divide our power with them. That's we goyim, the people. Then in fear and trembling they will close their eyes to everything and will be content to await what will be the end of it all. So the people will passively just sit around waiting to be killed. Look what they're doing now when they see what is happening and nobody's doing anything. It says here, you're not going to believe this. We are wolves. The goyim are a flock of sheep. We are their wolves. And you know what happens when the wolves get hold of a flock. There is another reason also why they will close their eyes. For we shall keep promise and to give them back all their liberties. So if they do this revolution, and the EMP pulse crashing the dollar, and they say they got to temporarily do martial law, don't you believe it for a second. It says right here, we will promise to give back their liberties. We have taken away as soon as we have quelled the enemies of peace and tamed all parties. It is not worth to say anything about how long a time it will be kept waiting to return their liberties. So they'll just keep on promising and promising tomorrow, next month, next year. Just like since 2001, they haven't stopped the warring in the Middle East. They've extended it now to the Ukraine. And now they're doing Jade Helm, putting troops all over the USA. Right in front of our faces. For what purpose, then, have we invented this whole policy and insinuated it into the mind of the Goy without giving them any chance to examine its underlying meaning? It is this which has served as the basis for our organization of secret masonry. Remember, this series is Freemasonry and Satanism, which is not known to and aims which are not even so much as suspected by these Goy cattle, that would be you and me, attracted to us by the show army of Masonic lodges. They have lodgers on every corner in every city, in order to throw dust in the eyes of their fellows. God has granted to us, these are the people writing this, His chosen people, the gift of the dispersion. And in this which appears in all eyes to be our weakness, has come forth all our strength, which has now brought us to the threshold of sovereignty all over the world. There now remains not much more for us to build upon the foundation we have laid. So they think they're there. They think it's all done. Protocol number 12. I didn't know if I was going to get through 2 of these. And you can see I highlighted it, some stuff. The word freedom, which can be interpreted in various ways, is defined by us as follows. Freedom is the right to do which the law allows. So if the law allows for you to breathe, there's your freedom. If the law says you can't associate with people, that's not a freedom. The law. And they make the laws. They can make any laws they want. This interpretation of the word will at the proper time be of service to us, because all freedom will thus be in our hands, since the laws will abolish or create only that which is desirable for us according to the aforesaid program. We shall deal with the press in the following way, which is the part played by the press today. So the press is already doing their bidding, where people are already under the control, believing the nightly news, believing the newspapers, believing the stuff about Donald Trump running for president, Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton, all the stuff you think you're being told. The stage is being set. That's my opinion. It serves to excite and inflame those passions which are needed for our purpose, or else it serves selfish ends of the parties. See, I told you. They're telling us. Go look up the protocols. It is often vapid, unjust, mendacious, and the majority of the public have not the slightest idea what ends the press really serves. Many of us know. We shall saddle and bridle it with a tight curb. We shall do the same also with all productions of the printing press. For where there would be the sense of getting rid of the attacks of the press, if we remain targets for pamphlets and books. So they have to control all the press, pamphlets, and books, so they can't have anybody telling anybody the truth. The produce of publicity, which nowadays is a source of heavy expense, owing to the necessity of censoring it, will be turned by us into a very lucrative source of income by our state. So our country is going to be their state. We shall lay on it a special stamp tax and require deposits of caution money before permitting the establishment of any organ of the press or of printing offices. These will then have to guarantee our government against any kind of an attack on the part of the press. So anybody who wants to print anything will have to make a huge deposit, like a rent deposit, called caution money. And if you do something that they don't want you to do, they'll keep your caution money and put you out of business. For any attempt to attack us, if such should be possible, we shall inflict fines without mercy. Such measures as stamp tax, deposit of caution money, and fines secured by these deposits will bring in a huge income to the government. It is true that the party organs might not spare money for the sake of publicity, but these we shall shut up at the second attack upon us. They'll kill them. No one shall with impunity lay a finger on the areole of our government infallibility. The pretext for stopping any publication will be the alleged plea that it is agitating the public mind without occasion or justification. So they'll say that they're agitating the public mind, and that's a crime. To telling the public the truth will be a crime, because you'll agitate the public. I beg you to note that among these making attack upon us will also be organs established by us. So they're going to create some printing presses and newspapers to attack themselves, but it'll be a controlled attack to appease the public. But they will attack exclusively points that we have predetermined to alter. So again, trickery. We control the press. Not a single announcement will reach the public without our control. These agencies will then be already entirely ours, and will give publicity only to what we dictate to them. Number 5 on number 12 here. If already now we have contrived to possess ourselves of the minds of the Goy communities to such an extent that they all come near looking upon the events of the world through the colored glasses of those spectacles we are setting astride their noses. So you're going to see the world the way they want you to see it. Deception. When we shall be acknowledged supreme lords of the world in the person of our King of all the world. Number 6. Let us turn again to the future of the printing press. Everyone desirous of being a publisher, librarian, or printer will be obliged to provide himself with the diploma instituted thereforth, which, in case of any fault, it will be immediately impounded. So anybody who wants to print anything will have to have a special diploma, and if you do anything they don't like, it will be immediately impounded. With such measures, the instrument of thought will become an educative means in the hands of our government, which will no longer allow the mass of the nation to be led astray in the byways and fantasies about the blessings of progress. Sounds like a Hunger Games movie program here. Free press destroyed. We turn to the periodical press. We shall impose on it and all printed matter stamp taxes per sheet, and deposits of caution money, and books of less than 30 sheets will pay double. So even science magazines, any kind of thing, they're going to control things they don't want you to know. They want to limit your knowledge. At the same time, what we shall publish ourselves to influence mental development in the direction laid down for our profit will be cheap and will be read voraciously. The tax will bring vapid literary ambitions within bounds, and the liability to penalties will make literary men dependent upon us. If there should be any found who are desirous of writing against us, they will not find any person eager to print their productions. Before accepting any production of publication in print, the publishers or printer will have to apply to the authorities for permission to do so. Thus we shall know beforehand of all tricks preparing against us, and shall nullify them by getting ahead with explanations of the subject treated of. Literature and journalism are two of the most important education forces, and therefore our government will become proprietor of the majority of the journals. This will neutralize the injurious influence of the privately owned press, and will put us in the possession of a tremendous influence upon the public mind. This, however, must in no wise be suspected by the public. So the public's not to know anything about this. So turn this video off and don't watch it. By the public, for which reason all journals published by us will be of the most opposite in appearance, tendencies, and opinions, thereby creating confidence in us and bringing over to us quite unsuspicious opponents, who will thus fall into our trap and be rendered harmless. Lovely people, these Zionism, New World Order people, worshiping Lucifer, building the new King Solomon temple in Israel, accomplished by the Illuminati, or accomplished, their associates, their partners in crime, the Jesuits, Kabbalah, Rosicrucians, New Agers, and not all the little people in all these groups. They've been tricked and deceived, like these people say. In the front rank will stand organs of the official character. They will always stand guard over our interest, and therefore their influence will be comparatively insignificant. So they want to control the world, basically, so they have all the money and everything they want to do, for whatever they want to do, and everybody else is slaves. Anybody else they allow to live. In the second rank will be the semi-official organs, whose part it will be to attack the tepid and indifferent. In the third rank we shall set up our own, to all appearance, opposition, which in at least one of the organs, Nazism, will present what looks like a very antipodes to us, antipodes. All our newspapers will be of all possible complexities. Aristocratic, Republican, revolutionary, even anarchical. for so long, of course, as the Constitution exists. Like the Indian idol Vishnu, we will have 100 hands, and every one of them will have a finger on any one of the public opinions as required. When a pulse quickens, these hands will lead opinion in the direction of our aims, for an excited patient loses all power of judgment and easily yields to suggestion. In the vain belief that they are following the organ of their party, they will, in fact, follow the flag which we hang out for them. So people vainly believing in Donald Trump will be following the Pied Piper. Vainly believing in Hillary Clinton will be following the Pied Piper. Vainly believing Jeb Bush or anybody else these people control will be following the Pied Piper. They're saying this. Protocols of Zion. And it's not like I've only done one video. We got hundreds of hours of material and books I've reviewed. What's it going to take for people to wake up? In order to direct our newspaper militia, in this sense, we must take special and minute care in organizing this matter. Our organs, that's their media outlets, newspapers, TVs, will carry on a sham fight, fusilla, with the official newspapers solely for the purpose of giving occasion for us to express ourselves more fully than could be done from the onset by official announcements. Whenever, of course, this is to our advantage. These attacks upon us will also serve another purpose, namely that our subjects will be convinced to their existence of full freedom of speech, and so give our agents an occasion to affirm that all organs which oppose us are empty babblers, since they are incapable of finding any substantial objections to our orders. Only lies printed. Well, we got one more page here. Protocol 12. Number 15. Methods of organizations like these, imperceptible to the public eye, but absolutely sure, are the best calculated to succeed in bringing the attention and the confidence of the public to the side of our government. Thanks to such methods, we shall be in a position, as from time to time may be required, to excite or to tranquilize the public mind on political questions, to persuade or to confuse, printing now truth, now lies, facts or their contradictions, according as they may well be or ill received, always very cautiously feeling our ground before stepping upon it. We shall have a supreme triumph over our opponents, since they will not have at their disposition organs of the press in which they can give full and final expression of their views. Owing to the aforesaid methods of dealing with the press, we shall not even need to refute them except very superficially. Trial shots like these, fired by us in the third rank of our press, in case of need, will be energetically refuted by us in our semi-official organs. Even nowadays already, to take over the French press, there are forms which reveal Masonic solidarity. In acting on the watchword, all organs of the press are bound together by professional secrecy. All the augurs of old, not one of their numbers will give away the secret of his source of information unless it be resolved to make announcement of them. Not one journalist will venture to betray this secret, for not one of them ever admitted to practice literature unless his whole past has some disgraceful sore or another. So what they need is, just like they do now with Masonic Lodge members, is they have to have something on you. Pedophilia, rape, murder, theft. And then you can practice literature for them, so that because they have something on you. The mob will follow after him with enthusiasm. So they're puppet people like Donald Trump. Will the mob follow after him? Our calculations are especially extended to the providences. It is indispensable for us to inflame those hopes and impulses which we could at any moment fall upon the capital. What we need is that until such time as we are in the plenitude power, the capitals should find themselves stifled by the provincial opinion of the nations or a majority arranged by our agentor. So they're going to keep everything in a confused state like they do now. So nothing is ever going to get solved. They're going to make sure of that. What we need at the psychological moment, the capitals should not be in a position to discuss an accomplished fact for the simple reason, if for no other, that it has been accepted by the public opinion of a majority of the provinces. So even when they do take over, they're not going to announce it. Everything will seem as it was before. When we are in the period of our new regime, transitional to that of our assumption of full sovereignty, we must not admit any revelation by the press or any form of public dishonesty. It is necessary that the new regime should be thought to have been so perfectly contended, everybody, that even criminality has disappeared. So they're going to say criminality has disappeared. Cases of manifestations of criminality should remain known only to their victims and to chance witnesses. No more. So even when crimes are committed by criminals, by politicians, nobody's going to know. We're going to have all complete control of the thought processes of humanity. In their words. So that's enough of the Protocols of Zion. Some pretty strong stuff. And you can go on Abe used books or Alibis used books, and you can get a 1938 edition, 1890 edition maybe, 100 years old. 1975, Henry Ford's edition, the automaker. You can look up, I've already read about it in other books, rabbis, Marvin Anelman or Henry Macau, PhD, Jewish author, and many people have said that the Protocols of Zion are authentic. Go online, print out a copy. See if what they're saying is not what's actually happening. Alright, I have one special thing to do left. Alright, I'm going to do a little bit of the current press releases, documents I find online from the regular press or alternate press. This is by Joachim Hugelpayan, Global Research website. Totalitarian rule in America, false flags, secret prisons, extrajudicial assassinations, media censorship, and the rounding up of alleged terrorists. March 1, 2015. Now, I'm not going to read all of this here. I do expect people who watch my videos to key in these words on their own internet. Print out this document after you see what I'm reading and share it with your friends. Feel free to download my video because the internet could be shut off tomorrow. All this work I've done, if you download it, make it on a CD so you can show it to people. The world may come to that. Hide in secret. Watch Rick Miracle. Tell the stuff that he has researched. And show the stuff that you have researched. We all need to investigate. We're human beings with brains. Not to be robots or zombies that these New World Order people want. As we just read in the Protocols of Zion. And in that material by that Jewish guy who went to Israel. Who told us so much. From a Jewish man's perspective. We all know about 1984 George Orwell. I've read this book. Pretty spooky stuff. This one guy was doing something they didn't want. So you know how they scared him into complying? His fear was rats. So they put a cage over his head with a little tube and another little cage with a rat. And they told him they were going to open the cage and let the rat come in and gnaw at his face off. It completely horrified him. My point is, these evil people know no bounds of evil, of torture. No bounds. We've got to deal with that. This makes me wonder if they really are reptilian creatures, demonic beings, cast out angels as per the Bible, who hate God, want to be gods themselves, and hate God's children, humanity, to the point where they want to not only destroy them, but torture them and make life just completely horrible just out of hate. So let me read from this document. Every day signs are looming larger than life as we know it in the wealthiest nation on earth, that it's about to crash and burn, forever changing, not for the better. The latest wake-up call arrived in the Guardian article earlier last week. The story features a secret prison not unlike the CIA torture detention centers all over the world, whereby the Chicago police hold rounded-up USA citizens for hours or days at a time for interrogation. The same internationally illegal roundups of suspected potential terrorists, which by latest Gestapo America standards can easily be you or me. That the CIA and military black ops deploy globally are being covertly conducted, not only in Obama's hometown, where his thug buddy Rahm rules, but likely every USA city and soon coming to a neighborhood near you. The complete loss of constitutional civil liberties, where we can be taken in without warrant, locked up and shackled for indefinite periods of time. Where to all our friends and family we simply disappear. These totalitarian Orwellian tactics are here today in secret CIA-like black sites, locations throughout the nation. Lawyers are summarily turned away. Those in prisons are not booked nor entered into any record-keeping system, only to typically be beaten and shackled. If this inhumanity, brutality hidden from public view is operating in one of major U.S. metropolises, it means that these secret police detention centers are no doubt also up and running in secret locations throughout America. This worst-case scenario of police state USA is just one more nightmare come true. I'm not reading everything. March 2015. Protocols of Zion were written 100 years ago or more. That book by the American Jew in Israel, 20-something years ago. More. There's just so much evidence here. People could just disappear, be disappeared. For numerous decades, the United States has engaged in both high-intensive and low-intensive counterinsurgency and counterterrorism wars around the globe. But now in the 21st century, all those same black ops wars, as I've been saying for a long time, if we didn't stop it when they were doing over there, it's going to come here. I've been saying that over and over. Have come to roost right here in the land of the not-so-free. To police state USA, all American citizens are the potential enemy. And of course, those of color and poor are the most often the victims. I'm understanding that poor people, homelessness, which isn't growing as things get worse, more homelessness is going to grow. But it is my understanding that these people are disappearing. What kind of evil, behind-the-scenes thing could be going on? Abducting these people, disappearing them at night. Hey, we have some food for you. Come to this shelter. Never to be seen again. Think I'm paranoid? Do some homework. Look it up. In a far less shocking and dramatic note, the latest FCC 3-2 vote on Thursday to maintain net neutrality has been treated in the press as a triumph for the people. Remember, they own the press. Zionist-owned press. So whenever they put something in the press, should you believe it? No. Yet before we internet users celebrate, several key factors still need to be pondered. We already know the overriding history in North America, where giant transnational corporations enjoy more individual rights than us individuals at this age of globalism. The FCC's ruling declared that the internet falls under the rules and regulations of the telecommunications industry. And we know what's been happening there with all the mind control on the TV and radio and news. 6 corporate entities virtually control all the world's major media outlets. Zionist entities, you think? Secondly, the 300-page details of the FCC decision has yet to be released. Finally, the FCC has a special new rule called General Conduct Rule, whereby, as in FCC Chairman Wheeler's words, it wants to referee in getting in to decide what it deems unfair and hurts consumers' competition and innovation. I'm reminded of my recent reading of the Protocols 11 and 12. Agitating the public could be a crime. Exposing the truth could be agitation. Where's the freedom of speech in the Constitution? Have they suspended the Constitution? Big government operates in devious, sneaky ways. It knows ruling against net neutrality now would cause a storm of fury in America that temporary Washington is choosing at this moment to avoid. So when they want the fury across America to happen, like it said in the Protocols of Zion, when they're ready, they'll let the flurry roll. It's simply akin to the hard kill being deferred to a soft kill strategy. Quietly sneaking through little changes that in their totality will eventually peck away at net neutrality and ultimately kill it. Just like it said in the Protocols of Zion. We need to always remember that the recent years government.corp is one entity that historically favors corporate greed and profit over the well-being of a bunch of humans. And remember, most of the European nations have banned Monsanto, but not the United States. So if it's not good enough for them, why is those poisonous, toxic foods good for us? Good question. And Monsanto, by the way, if you put it in a numerology calculator, online free, is 666. I think witchcraft is 666. All kinds of evil words. Verichip is 666. Computer is 666. The power elite's agenda remains to offer less internet service, less access not only to the internet but to particular websites that will come at higher prices to access in the future. Indeed, the growing threat of our tyrannical fascist government cutting off access to independent alternate news sites, falling victim to state censorship, Protocols of Zion, is still very real and extremely foreboding. Increasingly, the elite's agenda is to disempower the global masses, Protocols of Zion, by keeping them ignorant, Protocols of Zion, we just read it, dumbed down and in the dark without any access to the truth, Protocols of Zion, taking away much of the World Wide Web in their sinister strategy that's just still operating at all times despite this recent decision. The totalitarian government of Washington has realized that their propaganda machine, mainstream media machine, has been rapidly losing its credible and honest audience. Upwards to 4 out of 5 Americans today aren't even tuning in to the like of NBC's Brian Williams' fake show for MSM's inaccurate reporting of the latest unfolding events in the globalized, censored world. Protocols of Zion, 11 and 12. That trend arrived long ago. We learned Williams turned out to be another mainstream liar. The totalitarian government's fusion into corporate fascism has long recognized that supplying the world with free internet allows the masses to access alternate independent news sites for far more accurate reporting of world news and developments. At increasing risk to censorship, blackouts, and persecution, independent news strives to tell the truth to the rest of the world, exposing the official narrative of pure lies and evil doing perpetrated by the criminal syndicate. Yashka, Nazi Zionist Jewish folks, mafia-type Zionists, Jesuits, controlling the politicians, Hollywood, Kabbalah, everything I've been saying. Criminal syndicate acting as a rogue government. A continued free and independent news outlet making suppression of the truth difficult poses a real threat to fascism. That's why a free internet is still under attack. Protocols of Zion. The other reason for the internet poses a threat to the New World Order is its enormous capacity to provide instant global communications between billions of humans around the globe that together possess a powerful, potentially powerful resistance movement, opposing the oppressive tactics being implemented by globalized multinational governments. It's hot out here. Gotta get some water. If my reading doesn't please you, please go look up this document and print it out. I beg you to do that. Make some copies and hand them out. For my sake as well as yours. Ultimately, an awakened, informed, and empowered citizenry of the world, united in solidarity, poses the biggest threat to global fascism and its New World Order. And now you know why I make the videos. Because people would say to me, Rick, who's behind all this? What's going on? People just didn't know, don't know, today. That's why, through executive order, Obama has given himself supreme dictatorial authority to shut down the internet in America under the pretense of national emergency. Friday night, I was down at the local pub having a beer at 5 o'clock. And I think it was Wednesday night. I have jazz music at my local place I like to go. And within an hour, 3 Amber Alerts went off on the phones, and everybody's phone in there. You know, everybody has these phones these days. Went off. Then 1 Amber Alert, okay. A little while later, another Amber Alert, okay. A little while later, another. And different vehicles, different tag numbers. Looking for some perp, I guess, so they say. And I looked at somebody and I go, you know, this is suspicious. And the girl sitting there with her phone going off for the 3rd time, she goes, yeah, that's the 3rd time I got an Amber Alert today. It does seem suspicious. And I said, I think they're testing the system. 3 times in an hour or so. September's supposed to be something terrible. Bunch of something terribles are supposed to happen. It's the Shemitah year, stock market crashing, Planet X coming. They have all these scared videos on YouTube and people warning about stuff. Obama's meeting with the Pope in D.C. The Pope's going before the United Nations. And now we had that stock market up and down this last week. So September, I'd be happy to be sitting here making this video going like this. Man, I thought something bad was going to happen. I'll be happy to be sitting here and say, man, nothing happened. Great. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. 3 Amber Alerts in an hour or so on different vehicles. Never happened before. Everybody else thought it was suspicious. Were they testing the system? And where did this happen everywhere? That would be curious. Leave a comment section if in your area this happened to you. as another in-our-face, over-the-top, draconian measure that reveals how today's totalitarian police state is fast closing in on us is the Fed's agenda to impose its later sinister plan to impose, now think about this, mandatory vaccine immunizations on every American adult. So they want to force this immunization. For what? They want to put something in our bodies. For what? On every American adult, as well as child. Just saying. Since 9/11, the feds have been systematically stripping away all our liberties. But when forcing potentially lethal injections on U.S. citizens against our will, the tyrants in Washington will likely have a real fight on their hands. Will overwhelming evidence piling up indicating vaccines, and in the news, several vaccine type doctors who are investigating the harmful effects of these vaccines, have wound up dead. I think I went over that in one of my videos. Pose a deadly danger to millions of humans. So do they actually expect us to line up and just allow ourselves to be killed? In the name of population reduction? The computer has selected you to die. It was randomly selected. It's all fair. So get in line and die. Could that be the case? Or the Zionists just don't want all these people anymore, and they have plans for their own world. Or like Dr. Stephen Greer said, and the guy with serious disclosure, UFO alien thing, he says, that I did in one of my recent videos, that they want to create a new civilization. Serious disclosure, Dr. Stephen Greer. I showed it in one of my recent videos. You can look up the document. But it says right there, they want to create a new civilization. So I suppose they have to get rid of the current civilization. So, forcing injections on all U.S. adults may be the catalyst that sparks a genuine grassroots revolt, not unlike the Boston Tea Party was up to the American Revolution, with an increasing segment of the U.S. population becoming sick and tired of their government's rampant oppression. Their battle cry may be enough is enough with your abusive, totalitarian, it says here, bullshit. The U.S. government has long overstepped both its legal and ethical boundaries, and that the people may now be reaching a tipping point towards active rebellion, which I have said that's what they want. They've been getting ready for it, like it said in the Protocols of Zion. They wouldn't allow it to happen until they're ready. They got Jade Helm already out there with troops and tanks and weapons all across the nation in place. August 29th, today, Saturday. If that isn't enough, I didn't believe this when I heard this. Defense bill legalizes U.S. propaganda. For national security, legalize U.S. propaganda. Look this up. June 11, 2012. So it's illegal for them to create Sandy Hook gun shooting. It's illegal for them to have created the Boston bombing. Propaganda for national security purposes to enact legislation to get people to have changed their minds, like it says in the Protocols of Zion. They own the media outlets and the government. So a new feature in the latest version of the National Defense Authorization Act, June 11, 2012, would legalize U.S. government propaganda directed at the American people, with a belief that successful wars require a domestic acceptance, writes Lawrence Davidson. The National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, is misnamed since it has less to do with defense than offense. The offensive it wages is not just against a growing list of alleged enemies of the United States, but also, from a constitutional perspective, against the rights of the American citizens and residents. The Protocols of Zion say they're going to do this. Major parts of the legislation are based on the assumption that key legal protections for individuals are incompatible with the requirements of a national security. The result is that Americans are now caught between the terrorists and the authoritarian propensities of their own government. Little picture here. I heard about this and I just didn't believe it. But they passed legislation making it legal for them to do those things like Sandy Hook. Maybe the guys going into the church and shooting black men. They're messing with our heads, trying to steer our thinking. Protocols of Zion says that. The NDAA, specifically Section 1021B-2, has already institutionalized the U.S.'s military ability to indefinitely detain, without charge or trial, citizens and non-citizens alike. This is a serious abuse of power. The monarchical authority of our founders sought to escape practice, such as disappearance of people. So have the contemporary dictatorships that Washington has so consistently supported. And I'm a Christian. And it's a sin to commit suicide. I would never do that. I'm happy with my life. The adventure of living is just too thrilling to think about stopping. So if I ever disappeared or somebody said I did myself in, I didn't do it. But I have no fear because I see myself sitting in God's hands. If we the people do not take action, we're doomed. So there's nothing to fear by taking action, because if you don't, you're doomed. They want a mandatory, as we just read, go and get in some line and take some vaccine. And maybe they've created a Ebola scare or Australian antigen. With the Sky Spring, you can look up, oh, why don't I just show you what's going on right here in my yard right now? Can you see the spray line? I'm not even standing up, I'm sitting down with my camera. Chemicals? Could there possibly be a biological? See all that white stuff in the background? There should be a blue sky. That's these straight line chemicals being dumped from jets called sky spray and chemtrails intentionally. And there's right on top of that tree line looks like ripples, microwave energy. Maybe HARP systems, microwave energies. I'm just saying, anytime they want, and there's the ripples right there on top of that tree in the center of this video. What could they put in this powder? What have they already put in this powder that's in my body and your body? I'm sitting outside and I looked up and saw the spray lines. So I'm making a point. What could they put in that to cause us to have some kind of bird-like flu, Ebola, Australian antigen, MARS, SARS, whatever the names they got. And then they say for the sake of the nation, and everybody has to get vaccinated, and anybody who doesn't will be considered a carrier and a threat to the people and national security. And you have to go to a FEMA camp or round it up and disappeared. From what I've been going over in my videos, it doesn't seem so far-fetched. So I'm not going to read anymore because, like I said, it's unnecessary for me to keep reading here when you can go look up that document. One more and I'm done with this video. Albert Pike, vision of the Third World War happening now. War on the Saints. Susan Douglas, All News Pipeline. There's a lot of websites I review. Stephen Quayle, InfoWars, Benjamin Fulford, videos on YouTube, and here's one here. I keep talking about Albert Pike in the 1880s, sending a letter to his friend in Europe, the guy who wrote Morals and Dogma, the Bible for the Freemasons, about that there would be required 3 world wars to bring about the New World Order. So, just thought a little further evidence by somebody else might clarify this and give what I've been saying a little more credibility. An email sent on Sunday reminded me of Albert Pike's 3 Wars visions, and like Helena Blavatsky and Alice Bailey and all these people who write all those material for the New Age movement, goddesses, they got all their communication from the other side, spirit guides, masters. And Albert Pike, with that big thick book, apparently got a lot of his information from a master spirit guide, interdimensional being, whatever. So Albert Pike's 3 Wars visions, and also Nikolai Tesla used to get on stage when he was older and said, "I'm not a genius." He said, "I've been getting these visions and hearing voices." And if you read his autobiography or books written about him, he was psychic even as a child. So there's something more to this reality than we live, than people know. And it might behoove us to wake up to that fact and realizing, calling on God and trusting in God and doing what you have to do to try to prevent what the Luciferian, Zionist, bad Jewish people versus the Shepherdix people, the Akhenazis, and all their other affiliations with Illuminati, Rosicrucian, Knights of Malta, Church of Satan, Hollywood, Kabbalah. It's endless. Council of Foreign Relations, trilateral groups, Israel, the Vatican, Jesuit. It's endless. So anyways, Albert Pike's 3 Wars visions with the Third World War predicted, quoted. So I went and looked out at all three that was reportedly written in 1871. So Susan Douglas here, who wrote this article, said she went and reviewed that. And seeing the vision for the first 2 wars were eerily accurate. So Albert Pike in 1871 described the 3 world wars, and the first 2 were eerily accurate. Taking note of the Third World War prediction and comparing it what we are seeing in the headlines currently shows that we are not just on the verge of a Third World War, but are watching it play out right now. And everything I've been doing in this video. So you can go look up this document. Please do, and print it out. So other people are seeing this stuff playing out right before our eyes, and we can stop it if we wake up. Albert Pike received a vision in which he described in a letter that he wrote to Manzini, dated August 15, 1871. The letter graphically outlined plans for 3 world wars that were seen as necessary to bring about a one world order. And we can marvel at how accurately it has been predicted, events that have already taken place. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentor. Wow, those are the words that were in the Protocols of Zion, agentor, of the Illuminati. That would be these Akhenazis, Jewish folks from Western Europe, Russia, Bohemia, Poland, all these people, Rothschild, Rockefellers, occultists. Between the political Zionist, the ones we're talking about, the Akhenazi Jews, and the leaders of the Islamic world. So they're stirring up a mess and murdering them, so apparently they will revolt and fight back. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. So all those people that they've been getting to move back to Israel, the elites will, of course, be safe and leave. But all those people could be scapegoats. Could be destroyed to bring about their new world order. Which is why I think, which has been said not by just me, why they overthrew the Ukraine and people are leaving the Ukraine, which was the previous historic homeland of the Khazars, the Akhenazi Jews, who changed to the Jewish religion way back then. So that they really want to go back to their homeland, preferably Russia and Ukraine. Maybe they're not so happy in the desert like Israel. I don't know. Speculating. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided. But don't forget, they'll have the United States, and they're going to make everybody take a vaccine and kill everybody here. You just see my hand go like this. I don't do the devil's line. If I accidentally move my hand, it looks like it. I'm not doing it. If people question me in the comment section, say they saw my hand in that shape or whatever. No. I'm a Christian. Not a devil worshiper. Don't have little horns like Miley and Madonna, Katy Perry. Act like Lady Gaga, Beyonce, and the Satanic Ritual and Super Bowl halftime show. All these people that are doing it. Bieber. Justin Bieber. You should see some of the stuff they got him now doing. Satanic rituals. All of them. They admitted on YouTube. Back to this document. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. The Protocols of Zion say that. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in all its horrors will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism. Protocols of Zion. Origin of savagery and the most bloody turmoil. Protocols of Zion. So they're going to make everybody beg for this New World Order. So they're trying to get people afraid of Islam. Muslim beheading Christians in New Jersey. They're doing all these things. Protocols of Zion said they were going to do all this stuff. Dear Susan, here's a comment by some guy named Bruce. Indeed, the factor of conquer by divide has been going on far as long as time has existed. That is true. And so have these Ashkenazi Jews and Illuminati, and all this has been going on since time began. The devil goes back in the Bible way back. The deceptive serpent. What is broken is the balance. Thus, when one charge overpowers the other power, then the balance is off. There is a zero compassion displayed by the media as well as the political class. I told you, these people are satanic and they don't have compassion. Oh, another guy writes, on target. After reading this and collecting other points of interest, we can indeed lace together the truth which is stated herein, together with the United Nations mandating and other points making for disturbing reading. Okay. So there you have it. Look up this document. I just wonder how much evidence it takes for people to get it. Got it? Rick Miracle reporting.